this planet falls around the sun, trapping us in the orbit. Creation groans in unison, like a race of frightened orphans. The darkness of this raging storm is covering up our portals, but a yearning.
Okay, greetings. I'm Christiane Ryan, and I am your host today for Artists in New England, where we bring to you the artist whose vision has made an impact in the art world. So today, folks, I'm really happy to present a master of extraordinaire, painter, woodworker, carpentry, you name it, is a gentleman by the name of Dave Hertzfeldt. And you can actually visit his beautiful little studio with all of his accomplishes and go to his website,
Right.
or go to, as we found out, what, Google?
Google.
You can Google, but he's off of Route 7A, right outside in Shaftesbury. It's a lovely drive right up by the chocolate factory. You can come up and make it an afternoon of it. And so Dave, thanks for coming on my show.
Sure.
Just so
Good to be here.
amazed at your, every time I come here, I'm just so amazed at just, you kind of send me these pictures and say, what do you think? And I'm like, wow. So, so some questions so the listener can get to see, get to know you. How long has this been going on, type of thing?
Sure. Well, boy, it's kind of a long story, but I pretty much knew in the second grade
Wow.
what I was going to do. And
Lucky you.
yeah, I had a stepmom at the time, and she recognized that I had some art talent and took it seriously. And I was in Catholic school at the time, believe it or not, and sat me down drawing all the time. And from there, it was pretty much I knew what I was going to do. And then as I became a teenager, every Christmas or birthday, my dad would always say, well, what do you want for your birthday? And I'd say, a router. The next year it would be like, what do you want for Christmas? Then it would be like, oh, I need a belt sander. So finally, and then it was a chainsaw, and it was an easel. So I always was just gearing up, even as a teenager, to do what I'm doing now.
To create.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the possibilities are endless when you have the right tool,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And
yeah.
I think what I see a lot with artists is it starts off with one thing, and then it just grows and gravitates into whatever the next thing is as your, expression and your creativity gets unleashed. I mean, I think that's really about what ends up going on from what I can see with artists.
Yeah, I mean, I went to art school right out of, high school after, a couple of years. And
So amazing.
at that point it was like, wow, this is awesome. I can actually go to art school and just do art all day long. And, at that point, a lot of kids my age or whatever turn around and think that, oh, they're an artist, they've got it all down. And when I got to art school, I was like, wow, I have a lot to learn, as far as like composition goes and mixing paint and color and theory and everything else. And I signed up for all these different classes. I mean, could you imagine? It was like a candy shop experience. It was like, wow, I'm doing airbrush in the morning, then I'm going to go to portrait, and then I'm doing landscape painting in the afternoon, and after that I'm going to go do illustration. And then after my first semester, I was like, I got to start narrowing down. And I was like, well, I just can't. Yeah,
fast.
I can't do all this. I got to choose a few things. And
So you knew this in the first year going to college?
Oh yeah.
At 18 years old?
No, I was probably I'm probably 20 at that time. I finally got around to getting my life together and say, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. How I'm going to get there. And yeah, it was weird. I wound up going to art school for that and narrowed things down to like portrait painting and landscape. And I wound up getting a part-time job working for a furniture maker.
Wow.
And from there, I was able to combine a few things, which I always liked, woodworking, that kind of thing. Took wood shop in high school, that kind of stuff. And then from there, it just kept going. But it was kind of weird because when I got out of art school, I was immediately offered a job working for the Parks and Forestry, and I worked in a fire tower for 2 years. And
That must have stimulated your whole you know, scenery and be able to really stimulate what you were seeing.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a different side of me because I really love the environment,
Oh, yeah,
love
nature.
nature.
Oh,
You know, to me, it was like nature glorifies the creator type of thing, and so I really enjoyed it. And then from that, even and there's a bunch of branches because I wound up getting involved in fire. So I got what's called red carded in 1984. So that meant that I can go on Western fire details. So now here I am, I'm this artist, woodworker guy. But to me it was like, well, now I can actually help support myself. It's sort of like the actor that goes to Hollywood and they say, don't quit your day job. You know, as an artist, you want to be able to, you know, have some kind of income coming in while you can buy more materials, buy art supplies, have time to create. And by doing fire, for instance, over the summertime when fires were taking place, it gave me time in the wintertime to paint or make inventory for doing shows and whatnot, and then to learn, to experience, because it's sort of like, I always tell people, it's like going to music school for, 4 years or so. And then you come out and it's like, you know, okay, I can play the piano, and now your professor or whatever said, okay, well, good luck now. And that, but it's now up to you to sit down, you know, how many hours a day and practice, discipline, compose, and then that just brings you back to this long learned lesson a long time ago, really important for a lot of artists, is you can either take your life and copy other people's work, you know, right? If it's in music, a lot of the arts are similar. If it's in music, you want to, we'll just do a lot of, you know, whatever, you know, different musicians, copy music, right? And then it's like, as far as, that's music, for instance.
Right.
Right? But if you're doing, literature, you're going to copy someone's writing style. And then if it's not that, then it's, what makes a big difference in your life and what sets you apart from other artists and creative people is originality.
Absolutely.
So you either copy other people's work or you concentrate and you get divine inspiration on how to be original.
Amen.
You know, when you look at a painting from Monet, you don't need to read the signature to know that it's Monet. And the same thing with what I do when it comes to artwork is, you know, I want people to see stuff and say, wow, I know who that is.
Right.
And that's creating a signature, being an individual artist.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing that I really love about your work is that you do have a certain, Bob and I we do a lot of artists. We were out there, we've been doing this for 10 years, and the first thing that really caught my eye is that you definitely have a unique style in your work. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about, to me, I can't, this is a print or this is a print. When I look at this stuff, I can't tell what's a print and what's original. So why don't you help us here?
Okay, well, once in a while when I do get some downtime, I call it downtime, it's because most of my work, 95% of what I do is commission. And this is something that's taken me 30 years of my life to do what I do, to be able to be confident enough in what I do, that when someone comes to me and says, I really want this, that I can, okay, sure, it's commission, I'll take that on, I'll get it done for you in a certain amount of time. And in between that, there's like those little precious golden moments that is like, wow, I'm going to go out and do something that I want to do. I really need to feed that creative side. And, in between all that, so this is one of those, that's just a little like farmscape type of painting that I did. That's an oil, and that features my wife posing there. They're picking radishes, just Vermont little, farmscape.
Yeah, I love the tractor with the mountains in the background, and to me it looks real. Like it's not hard not to be able to visualize something like this.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixture of painting, so it's not something that's really done a lot outside. This is more studio type work. And, I used to get to the point where I was really striving for photorealism. And when I got to that point, it got really boring. I was bored to tears. And now when I see it, done from other people, you sit there and say, well, I should have just taken a photograph or something, where you really need to build a story, a composition. It's gotta, you gotta have some brush strokes in there to show that it's a painting. Otherwise, to me, it's just like, what, it's a painting of like a cow, a
Still
duck,
life.
a bridge, a barn, whatever. But yeah, you need to make a story.
Interesting. I love that idea. And then, what do we have here? This is, you said this is the print of an original painting?
Yeah, that's a giclée, and so it's a print on canvas. The original, I mean, as far as a lot of the pieces in here, a lot of art prints because people buy my originals. So the originals are gone. I still, as an artist, have a right to the copyright, and it's a digital file is created, and from that, over the years, I've also, did contracts with companies that produce a lot of commercial type stuff, whether it's towels and greeting cards and puzzles. Some of my stuff was in like Hallmark stores and other greeting cards, and companies make flags and textiles and all kinds of stuff, and you get royalties from that.
Right. I think the thing that has captured, I'm finally trying to, it takes me a while, but the lighting. It's something about the lighting that's really different. I can see it here because of whether you call it the reflection or the refraction that's coming off the hay or the grass or whatever it is, but it's really in the sky. And I noticed when you sent me this picture, it's almost the same thing. Like, it's not a sunny day,
Right.
and it's, you can't really tell if it's dawn or dusk, but there's a changing of light that's going on. There's a bending of light.
Yeah, that's a lot to do with shadows and effect, and sometimes light can be really glaring. One of my worst times to go paint, believe it or not, is like June. It's like
too bright.
everything is like green. It's like they hit this green wall. I really love painting outside in the wintertime. And this was a painting that I did. I followed a friend of mine who was a farrier at the time up to the Taylor Farm in Londonderry, Vermont. And he was actually shoeing this Belgian, and from that I was able to do sketches, on-site work, take some photographs, and get some of the work done there, some of the loose stuff, and then bring it home and finish the detail.
I mean, it's almost like the horse could just come out. It's like you're waiting for it to just come out and come alive.
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest assets to artists that get it is, sky isn't blue and the mountains aren't green,
Right.
and in a sense, and the grass isn't always green.
Right.
And you have to paint what you see, not what you think you see.
Yeah, see, I think what I love the most here is that there's no leaves on the trees, and you actually, because, the fact that I love gardening and landscaping, you can see this, it's almost like the trees are sculptures in their own.
Yeah, it kind of sets a mood.
Yep, absolutely,
Right?
yeah. And you have to me, I love this time of year too, because it's not, all I can think of is that finally the earth is resting, right? So, and out of that, what does that look like? How does that come to life? So, but I love that. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
You sent this to me.
Yeah.
And then this picture, I recognize, this is out of Bennington, right?
Yeah, that's the old academy.
Right, which is, what is it, for sale? I thought I saw that it was for sale, or...
Well, it might be. I don't really know, but
it's an
it was.
apartment complex now.
I don't know. It was like years ago. It was vacant, and somebody had purchased it, and they did all this, renovation work to it. And then I was like one of the last guys to come in, and this guy gets a hold of me, and I was there for 3 years, and all I did inside was like mural work.
In the building?
Inside the building for
Wow.
3 years. Build custom furniture. Everything was custom. I mean, the bathroom mural that I did in this house is 25 feet long and 5 feet high, and it wrapped around the entire bathroom.
And what is
So,
it of?
I can send you a picture later, but
Okay.
or you can Google it. But it's basically a farmscape of the area. And yeah, I was there for like 3 years. It was like every
Well,
time.
we love Old Bennington because we lived in Bennington till we figured out where we were gonna go. So we always used to go up and walk around Old Bennington all the time. And so I thought I saw a for sale sign outside of it. I don't know. There's something going on up there.
Yeah, well, when I finished, the homeowner probably only owned the house for maybe another year, and he sold it. But when he sold it to an architect from California, and with everything inside, because the guy just wanted the furniture, he wanted everything
Your
went. So
home,
he did
you
really
made-
good. My customer, buddy, friend moved down to like I think South Carolina.
Did another building.
Yeah, he's been trying to get me down there for a longest time. He just stopped by a little while ago. I was
Wow.
like, can you come down? I've got so much work for you to do down in like South.
So what does he do? Give you square footage of what he wants? You know? how
Oh
much he
no,
wants it?
he's just you know, I get some customers that definitely have a creative side. I mean, they're not just people that have blank canvases in their heads. They're
Right.
like, you know, I got this really
Want
great
this, I
idea,
want that.
and then together I sit down with them. We just bring that out. And might do a few sketches to get to that point, and it's like, that's what I want. That's what I
Wow,
want.
That's
And-
exciting.
And then this guy, Daryl, his name was Daryl, when I was all done, he was like, you know what, I want one more thing. I want you to do a painting of my house with the lettering style thing that you do, because I want to take that with me, because he sold the house.
Yeah.
So I did the original, he bought the original, and that's another Giclée.
That's amazing. So, and then right here, we just a little taste of some of Dave's woodworking. You said this arrived what, white?
Yeah, these are just, I mean, I'm a furniture maker, and please, I mean, this is going on, you know, TV or whatever, but just don't tell your friends. But once in a while, I definitely will repair, you know, stuff for good customers, refinish stuff, but I definitely don't advertise that. It's not something
Don't
I
advertise
really-
repair.
No, I don't
What, do
really.
you advertise like woodworking making? Like
Yeah,
if they came in
yeah.
with a little slate of like a picture or something that they wanted, like a table.
Yeah, I'm building stuff that fits between an outlet and a window, and it's got to be a certain color, and so many drawers and doors and all that kind of stuff. I gave the ability to add artwork or carve something. These are very, very, very good customers and good friends of mine that said, Dave, I need you to do something. And I'm like,
It's
oh.
an emergency.
You know, and I would bend over backwards for them, and this is one of them where this was like a French country table that was like pickled white from the 80s, and it's just being transformed into something that's a little more up to date. And the same thing with this table.
Yeah, this is interesting. You're gonna cut it down where the blue goes,
Right.
and then you're gonna replace the legs.
Yeah, they want to get rid of the turn legs and
Looks like
replace
a
with
$500 piece of repair.
Yeah, you know, some people are definitely, you know, emotionally or sentimentally attached to pieces.
I've been there.
And I've had it in
I'm
my
there.
family, and
Oh,
I could
yeah.
definitely say that about this. This is
Yeah.
this is a hand-me-down, and you know now, because the quality of this too is very, you know, it's something else.
Oh, yeah,
If they bring me a
worth it.
piece of furniture that's made out of cardboard, with a lot of stuff
Crap,
is these
they
days.
call
And
it
you know,
crap.
it's never going to be worth anything. You know, maybe you like it, but just there's no value to it. But this is like solid wood stuff.
Yeah, I would think a lot of it would have to be feeling motivated, you know, to, want to bring it to a natural state of beauty.
Yeah, so they just saw it, now I'm just in the finishing process, and that'll be leaving sometime this week. A lot of stuff that's here, just, you know, there's usually not a lot of inventory, there's not, you know, too much here, but, you know, stuff comes and then it goes. It's just in and out, and now it's more storing stuff.
And then, I don't know, Bob, can you shoot over here, Bob? We have on the opening of the show, I put Dave's mailbox so that when you're coming to visit the studio, you'll know what to look for. But here looks like a real hand-done mailbox. It looks to me like either a tern, some type of tern, or
Laughing gull.
laughing gull, seagull. But, you know, and I love the little, when you have mail, the fish.
Yeah, it's sort of like, you know, I started doing these carvings, and that just happens to be a seagull.
Yeah.
But I've done pelicans and all kinds of really
the
cool
whole
stuff.
bird thing, let me tell
Birds
you.
and fish.
Whoa, yeah, there was a guy down in that Long Island, that's all he did was birds and bob hand. And I'm telling you, if you got a bob hand bird, man, you have, something. Okay, so now we're over here, which I find especially in the time period that we are in. I think for me, it is about patriotism. It is about really, are we together, or are we, where are we as a nation? But we'll wait
Right.
till we get past that stage. But I think one of the things that really caught my eye is how symbolically these are all part of what has shaped our nation.
Right.
So I don't know, Dave, I mean, did you do service? Did you feel motivated about, I mean, these are
So-
some pretty symbolic.
I'll try to keep it kind of short, but I wound up working for the U.S. Forest Service for 24 years. And I was an engine boss. I was a turret torch operator. I operated a flamethrower. I traveled across the country in the summertime. You name it, Oregon, Texas, Colorado, Idaho, Montana, all over every summer. And I'd be gone for the whole, on and off over the summer, usually 3 weeks or so at a time, come back for a couple days R&R and go back out again. And what happened was, when 9/11 took place, being a federal employee, they came to me and said, can you go to Ground Zero? And I was like, and I'm in the Forest Service, I'm working out of the Manchester Ranger District, and I'm like, huh? I'm in the Forest Service, what's going on? Well, you're gonna be working, since you're federal, you're gonna be working for FEMA. So they put me on a train in Rutland, because I didn't know how I was getting down there, and I went down to Ground Zero in September for 18 days, and worked in logistics, and was up and back and forth to the pile. And when I got back, I wound up doing these paintings as a tribute, and raised a good amount of money for the firefighters fund and for the policemen's fund. And these are the originals. There's been prints made, again, companies
I'm
licensed.
so glad to hear that these are the originals.
Those are the originals. They were licensed, like a lot of other things, into products. Puzzles, White Mountain Puzzles had a bestseller out of the fireman's hat.
Yeah, I mean, it's
But
just,
that's the story with that. And then I
it's
wound
very
up.
moving,
This
very
piece
emotional.
here is a tribute. Then I started doing this thing on hats for a little bit. The others are sold, but this was a Vietnam tribute as well. And the original's here too.
Now, well, I have to tell you, this is, I think, the force that has, kept our country, unified, functioning, working. These are who we are,
That's
as a
right.
nation, so. Okay, so now we're over here at some, again, some of my favorites still life, which is the wetlands. And I don't know, I don't know if you pass it or how often you pass it right before Manchester.
Oh, yeah.
But there's that wetland with the great blue herons
Right.
nests.
Yeah, right by the National Forest.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, Bob gets so mad at me because I literally pull over, slow down, see who's in their nest, are the birds hatched, are they not hatched, where are the birds sitting, but this is beautiful, and what I love is that you've painted the dead trees in there, because that's so much of what that whole picture is over there, is the dead trees.
Yeah, that painting there is actually pretty close to that area. The area you're talking about is like in Sunderland. This is in Arlington.
Uh-huh.
And it's a little tributary, little marshy area.
Mm.
And it's just one of those things that, sometimes I'll see something driving by and say, oh, there's a painting there. And then I'll go back, and then I set the easel up outside and paint from life. So
Yeah.
I love painting from life.
I mean, there's so much up here, especially up in the Vermont, northern Berkshires area of artists and I don't know, I've heard that it's the lighting, or maybe it's nature, what it is, I don't care what it is, but it's just, to me, it's just breathtaking. To me, like this morning, we drove up to Rutland, and with the snow just on the trees, just like how it just grew, I mean, it was just this beautiful white picture. It was just breathtaking.
Yeah, I think the hard thing about something like that is how do you take that visual experience and then shrink it down to something that you can put on a canvas.
Yeah,
So that's a challenge for a lot of artists.
I would think, but
Yeah.
you know how it is right before the wind starts to blow or it melts and everything. I want to use the word impaled because it's just solid white. Everything was
Right.
white. Eat the trunks, everything. It was beautiful. It was just
Yeah.
really beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we have here. This is really.
Yeah, it's unframed right now. It's a oil painting that I did. Another one at Arlington. It's part of a hedgerow.
Yeah, it's
There's just a
beautiful.
lot going on, and it looks so much better in a frame, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I went 2 afternoons to finish that because there's a lot more detail in that hedgerow.
I mean, you can definitely see the season. You can definitely see, the nature, and it's beautiful. And like I can just see laying out a nice, cloth and having a picnic and being able to just, you can almost see the wind going through the trees.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of these are all outdoor paintings. That's another one from a farm here in Shaftesbury.
Oh, I love the road. I love how, and then it looks like there's the farm to the right.
Yeah, there's some big meadows there to the right. And, but yeah, these are all outdoor paintings. This other one here is something I did on a vacation. We went to Cape May and just a little beach shack. So sometimes it's hard for me to relax. It's sort of like, well, if I'm going on vacation, I'm always have stuff to do. I want to be working all the time. I may as well bring the easel. And that's just one of them that was like quick
So
little
when you
painting.
travel, do you bring canvases and easels and all your
Sometimes.
paints?
I mean, it depends on where I'm going, but usually I'll bring at least a sketchbook or
Oh,
something.
yeah. We had when we were doing our Airbnb, we had one of the guys, we had a group that came in, and the guy brought a sketchbook, and I have to tell you that I had to look at it in the perspective of how he did it, was starting from the roof and then going down to the pond, and I mean, it was just amazing. And he says that's how he relaxes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and that's really interesting. Can you get that, Bob?
It's just a little shed in a friend of mine's property.
Well, what I love the most is the uneven doors.
Yeah.
The doors like completely uneven,
Oh yeah.
right?
Just,
Barely
paint,
holding up.
paint from life, paint
Oh,
what
yeah.
you see, and
Yeah,
don't try to make it perfect.
absolutely.
Keep it
I don't
loose.
think there is any perfection in painting for me. I think when things are too perfect.
Yeah, then you're
Yeah.
back to that photorealistic thing, and it's just boring.
So when did you do this?
That was another winter scene. That was at Arlington too. So it's just one of those things. I probably could have went back and did a little more detail. It's a little loose, but it was cold that day. I remember that. And I don't usually have a lot of paintings here. I used to belong to the Southern Vermont Arts Center,
Oh.
and I did a few solo shows over the years, and I always wind up selling most of my winter paintings. They're always gone, And
Huh.
so I haven't done a solo show in years. I just haven't had the time, the inventory together. I've just been
It's an
working
amazing place.
commissions.
We finally got pulled in there. We were doing a brother and daughter exhibit, brother and sister exhibit,
on.
and she was doing it was unbelievable quilts,
Oh,
and he was doing sculptures that was it was real between wood
Yeah.
and metal.
yeah.
And I have to tell you, it was wow.
Yeah.
But I loved the place. I loved driving up there and the sculptures and how the whole gallery was laid out.
Yeah, I haven't been there for a while. I mean, years ago, I used to do these, the shows up there and member shows, and it was great. I always sold all these paintings, and then, there used to be a craft show in town called Craft from Craft Producers, had Hildene, and then they kept moving around, and anyways, I would do the show, and I'd be bringing furniture and stuff, and then what happened is
It's a lot
I
of
just
work.
I got busy. It was
Yeah.
like people, all the orders and stuff came in and were coming in, and then I just didn't have the time to stop doing everything I was doing to go
And then
get gear up
schlep.
for a show.
Schlep.
And you don't know if you're going to get rained on, if it's going to snow. One year we had a big snowstorm, an October 4th storm. And that was like horrible, you know. But I don't think I was there that year. I think for some reason I decided not to do the show
Good
that year.
thing, right?
And yeah, I remember because it was Grand Union in Manchester at the time was like giving away free food and ice cream because they lost their power for like 2 weeks or so.
In October.
Yeah, it's October 4th. All the leaves were on the trees. And
Well, we were that last storm that we didn't get anything. It was at the end of October. We drove down into Rhode Island. They got more snow than we did.
Yeah.
And the snow was still, it was hitting the trees that had leaves on it.
Yeah.
And the outages. It was, when we drove out of here, it was like 1 inch. And then
Right.
we drove down into it. It was like bizarre.
yeah.
But here you really get to see, and I love this, is like, I don't know, when you drive up Route 7 north, heading towards Rutland, it's just when all the mountains come together and you can't see the difference from one mountain to another, and it's just this beautiful mirage of mountains.
Yeah, this was one that's in Arlington too, and it's just that I think the painting for me was just too big to do outside, you know, at the time, and I was just trying to rush it through because, you know, I mean, as much as I love painting outside, it's a great challenge, and I think that's, I mean, after you've been painting for years and years and years, one of the things that you really get into is when everything's moving, you know, because the sun is moving, the clouds are moving, the wind is moving leaves, and you know, and you're working on the sky. Next thing you know, that beautiful cloud formation you were painting all of a sudden just turned into something else, you know.
Not there.
And yeah, so you're working so fast trying to capture it all, and it's just a matter of, you know, of a couple hours to try to capture that experience. And so if you're near me, if I'm painting outside, sometimes I'm just screaming because I'm just like, I gotta get this, and
Yeah.
you know, it's
That's
fun.
it.
It's really
That's
fun.
amazing. So then over here, what do we have? The farmers' blueberries.
Yeah, I used to, kind of dating myself now, but back in the 70s, I hand lettered a lot of vehicles. That was the whole thing back then, was like pinstriping and hand lettering signs and all that. So yeah, so that was kind of the thing up until like maybe the 90s or so. And then, you know, you talk about career changes and stuff, and it was like, oh, it was almost like overnight, all of a sudden the vinyl, you know, revolution came out. And then people like me that were like using mall sticks and you know, doing all this pinstriping and stuff, we were kind of like almost out of business, because then it was like, oh, if you can be a sign painter, if you can just take a roller and push it across a piece of plywood, then you put your stickers on it and you're a sign maker. So it was like really life changing. So, you know, I kind of went the route of like, you know what, maybe the lettering and stuff and pinstriping that I was doing could actually be an art form. So then I started applying it into some of my paintings and stuff that you see here. And some of the pinstriping kind of carried over. A friend of mine, Mark Goyette, does car restoration. And I do woodworking and pinstriping and that kind of stuff. So he got a hold of me years ago, and wound up going that route, was like going down the route of restoration. So I worked on, you know, I had a copy of walnut frame from a 1915 Mercedes, for instance, that he totally built from the ground up. And I had to make a frame out of walnut and then do all this like fancy, you know, trim work in the Mercedes, and which went to Pebble Beach. And then on some of the cars, that was a big introduction to me. I had no idea what they were, but learned a lot about the brass cars. For instance, Overlands and Marmons and Pages, things like that. I was like, okay, Dave, well, you can pinstripe and stuff, so you need to like pinstripe all these, you know, the spokes on the wooden spokes on the tires and wheels for these cars, because they all had wooden wheels.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then other things like the Overland. It was like, okay, Dave, I need you to pinstripe this Overland, because a lot of those older cars from that vintage, you know, years, you know, had all this pinstriping. And so, anyways, went that route too.
How long
For
were you doing that?
Oh, this went on for a few years, and I got to the point where it was very nerve-wracking. I mean, you know, working on, like, for instance, the frame of the Mercedes, you know, those rails were like 15 feet long, solid walnut, And he was here helping me one time, and it's like, I'm pushing this through a bandsaw. So you can imagine how far away I am from seeing the line of what I need to do. And that the rails for the Mercedes weren't just like two straight pieces of wood. These were things that I had to laminate and make curves and like wishbone, members to be joined together to copy the steel. That was, they were all kinds of forms they used back then. So it was pretty nerve-wracking. So, and I did some other stuff. And it's just that, when he gets to work, he'll get a hold of me or something, but I've just been busy doing what I do too, so.
Yeah, you can't do it all,
No.
that's for sure. Okay, so also here in the gallery, Dave, this is quite a conversation piece. I would think for people who are really crazy about seashores, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I just having the door and being able to put stuff, it has 3 or 4 shelves in there, not to mention the actual carving. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this and the fish that actually, I mean, it all comes out, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it's just one of those creative moments. Doing all the carved work, I wanted to somehow bring it into furniture and cabinet work, make it a little more three-dimensional.
Oh, it's three-dimensional,
This is
right.
a base that could be used for an aquarium, for instance,
Oh, great idea.
right?
Great
So a little
idea.
storage inside. You could run your pump and everything from behind, or drill a hole through your tank.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It was like from here, it was like here was a whole nother avenue of like, well, I can go down this road of doing all this like really cool carved furniture and mirror frames and all kinds of stuff, and literally just haven't had the ability to like, I don't have 10 hands. I can only do so much at a time.
Yeah.
And then I like the tropical feel for it, but I'm in Vermont, so it's kind of really weird. I'm like, a lot of this stuff should really be more of a coastal thing, but it was like one of those things that kind of came to my mind at the time.
So do it, right?
So if you
When it
go
comes to-
online, if you like Google Dave Hirschfeld, you will see, for instance, a lot more carved work that is more indigenous to the area, wildlife. We're talking like, birds and, turtles, and
Foxes, like
owls,
owls, yeah.
and all kinds of cool stuff, rather than the tropical stuff. It seems a little out of place.
No, it doesn't. I mean, people, unfortunately or fortunately, people that come up here, usually they're in the same mode. They go to the beach during the summers and then they come up here and, it's like people, I don't think there's a landmark of where people land.
Yeah, and I think just having some things too, it's sort of like I
To
get folks
remind
that,
them.
well, people will come here and they'll see this and they might not want this, but they'll say, wow, if you can build that, you can build this.
Anything,
And
yeah,
it's like, when you come down to
absolutely.
our house and blah, 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 and next thing you know, you're like designing this really cool stuff in restaurants too. I mean, I've worked in a lot of restaurants and done
You
some
see, I
cool
could see
stuff.
this at a restaurant with a big, huge tank on it,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then getting back to your other, I guess they're prints now. The originals are gone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because, we're in horsey country and we're definitely in cider country. And if you keep your cider around long enough, it becomes hard, right?
Yeah. So I at one time I was starting to do these different towns in Vermont.
Yeah,
And
I
I-
love Sandgate.
Yeah, and I came up with these, fictitious company names,
Uh-huh.
and people are like, "Wow, where can I get that cider?" And I'm just like, "No, that's just I'm a sign maker, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It just
Oh,
happens
yeah.
to be a
Great
piece of
promotion.
artwork, So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, I did a bunch of signs with different towns, but then again, you get to the point where you get 5 or 6 towns, and it's like then someone says, "Well, I have a real business. Can you do something for me?" And it's like, okay, and so
It's not fictitious.
yeah, they're off doing something else again.
And then here is is that a flounder? It's a flounder.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it
a
a
little
flounder?
more decorative and
Uh-huh.
more artistic, not really realistic type of thing, but
Oh, I don't know. I think it's very realistic.
yeah, it's got a little colorful thing going on. But these carvings are designed to go outside,
Uh-huh.
so they hold up outside.
And what do you put some kind of paint on them or some
Yeah,
kind
you-
of coverings?
Yeah,
They-
so they're all sealed and they're all hand painted, and they're made to be exposed to cold hot,
The elements.
all the elements,
Yeah.
rain, snow,
Cool.
without cracking and splitting and warping like a lot of the, you'll see a lot of stuff out there that it just falls apart in a matter
Oh,
of time.
like a couple months.
Yeah.
I love the barn siding. I love it. That really has such a nice effect.
Yeah, and then it's like, it'll hold up even outside as long as it's not on the ground.
Yeah,
I just did a 5-foot tall jellyfish for somebody,
cool.
and same thing, it's like, you can see that online if you Google Dave Hairstyle, but if you go online, you'll see that, and it was mounted on barn board, but man, it looks awesome. It looks like the place that these folks are working on, it just reminds me of like Hard Rock Cafe.
Oh, cool.
They've been ordering like really cool carved stuff, and they
And it
sent me a
hasn't
picture.
slowed down since COVID or any of that nonsense?
No,
If anything, it's gotten worse.
yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I just been really so blessed,
Yeah.
to be able to, take the time. And I said it was really, there was a challenge. I mean, you don't like go to art school and come out and all of a sudden you're
And then come.
right. It's
Yeah.
like piano or anything else. You got to create. You've got to it takes years and years and years.
Yeah, I
and
was going
years.
to ask you then, the promotion piece comes in this. I mean, it's one thing to be really creative and have the elements and understand, but then it's about marketing and promoting yourself. And some people just, some people just do not get that, don't have the knack for it, don't want to do it,
or don't have the time.
and don't have the financial
Yeah, how do I-
capabilities.
And I've had people like in the past come to me like, oh yeah, we want to market you and do this stuff, and they're like, I have a hard time because it was like, I mean, I've been like, and it's really hard for artists because there's a lot of people that want to steer you certain directions, and
Yes.
and belonging to like art centers and different craft centers and stuff like that, they don't say, yeah, we don't really go near that guy too much because he's kind of all over the place. They want to kind of pigeonhole you. They want to make, well, this is so and so, and this is what so and so does.
Yeah,
They make
this
these
is a
cute
shtick.
little look things, and that's
Yeah.
that. And me, it was like, well, this guy's all over the place. How in the world do we
Condense it into a marketable,
Yeah.
promotional.
And that's kind of like you have to, as an artist, you have to like figure out who you are and what you're doing. And if people are trying to steer you a different direction, you got to say like, and I said no. I said no plenty of times. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to just do this because some people, artists are just, I'm a still life painter, and I'm just like, I'm like, after a while, I mean, I don't even know. Do still life paintings even still sell? I'm like, I don't know, but I just definitely didn't want to go down that route.
Yeah.
But they hated me. It was like, I would do these like paintings and stuff like this one here,
Let's look at this one.
right? This painting.
That's about as close to still life as
Yeah,
it
it's like a little still life thing, and it was like, and it was
Hold
like,
it out so Bob can see it.
Yeah.
I am so into cows.
And-
I have to tell you, my big thrill is when I'm driving into East Dorset and those cows that have the white stomach. Like, I love
Dutch
mar-
belts and
Yeah, I love marketing. I love the different kind of markings on different animals.
So I wound up like I did a solo show on the art centers, and I got all set, and the gallery manager shows up, and she sees my paintings, and I went ahead and this was like several years ago. I used barn
Fairly
board,
recent.
and it was just like, oh, you're not gonna go ahead and frame your artwork in barn board, are you? And I was like, well, yeah, it kind of fits the artwork. Oh, no, it's all gonna be done in gold. And she made me reframe all the artwork in gold frames, right, for the show. 2 weeks before the show.
Oh.
So I wound up doing it, and I didn't get a lot of promotion because I don't think they really liked me because I was not the cookie cutter. I wasn't like from Dorset. You know what I'm saying? Oh, whatever, it's fine.
I'll do whatever
But I mean
it
that
takes.
way. But I'll just, this is who I am. This is what I do, and so and it's not like sour grapes or anything like that, but just they would promote people that they knew and they liked or whatever. I'm an outsider.
They could label,
Yeah.
and control, and put it into a little pigeonhole.
So I wound up,
Predictability.
it was so funny because it was like, I'm just this nobody, I'm nobody to them or whatever. I just do what I want to do, and it's working for me. I mean, I'm paying my bills, I'm staying alive, I'm not, not going hungry. And I did the show, and guess who had like the highest amount of sales for that month?
You
Was
did,
me. You know what I
obviously.
mean? And it was
And
like,
they wanted to change the framework, right?
not only the framework, they made me change the framework, but then they turned around and they tried, ripping me off on the contract. Went from 40% to 45%, and I had a big fight over that. I had a signed contract, But anyways, after it all was over, the funniest thing, I'm telling you, the funniest thing
You learn.
was I got approached by a gallery in Woodstock, Vermont, Gallery on the Green.
Oh, yeah.
And they were just like, wow, we really love your work. Would you ever be interested in showing your work in our gallery in Woodstock? And I'm like, sure, no
Well,
problem.
you don't have to put a gold frame around
you know
it.
what they did? They come down here, they're looking at the stuff, and they said, the only thing is, we really like those barn board frames. So here I am doing the shelving.
Taking them off.
I'm like, I was like, I knew it. These people just they just make your life difficult, and it was like, it didn't have to be just, sometimes you got to let the artists, kind of dictate, how it should be.
I would hope so.
They're the ones that they're getting into philosophy, but I just remember hearing stories of the artists moving into Soho, New York or something.
Oh, yeah.
And it was all of a sudden that area just became this really cool place, and the buildings and the value, everything went up in value, right? Real estate and all
Yeah,
this sort
now
of stuff.
they're
They
all
turned
up here.
right. And the same thing here is when the artists like me, I used to live in Danby back in the 80s.
That's interesting.
And it was nowhere, but it was cheap.
Yeah.
For artists to
Not
be able to
anymore.
start out and live, it was like, wow, this is really affordable. And that's what how artists do. You want to get yourself in a situation where you're able to pay your bills and live and everything else,
Well, you're not
and
hot
create.
dog. Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I would think that would be the
And then-
the main.
Yeah, the artists wind up, doing all this really cool stuff. I mean, I don't know if you've been to my house, but a lot of this was all reclaimed material. But I built this building in 2000. Me and a friend built this building in 2000. In 92, we built the building. And
This
we were,
building?
we
Yeah.
were reclaiming,
Old barn
all
siding, I don't
the
know if you can
material,
see any of the barn.
back then. It was getting barn beams and barn material to build stuff out of. And now it's guess what's really hot and
Oh,
trendy?
it's hot.
Now they've got Chinese barn board stuff being built, and it's whatever. The artists were already there 20
Yeah.
years ago, bud.
Been there, done
Yeah.
that, yeah. So, and then here's a real interesting, I want to divert away from your fish entity here, but that's really, I'll tell you, that's really poetic.
Yeah. Just
The
again, it's just-
fangs, I mean, that's really, it's supposed to be a red snapper.
yeah. I
Right.
just kind of exaggerated a little
Yeah.
bit. Made some nice little walnut teeth
Uh-huh,
on them, but yeah, the same kind of cool thing. It's something that can go outside.
yeah.
And like I said, people will come in, they might see that and say, well, that's not going to look great in my living room, but somebody else has a restaurant or they have a,
Or outside dining.
yeah,
Are you
it's just
kidding me?
really
Oh,
cool
yeah.
stuff.
And then here either it's a marlin.
Yeah, little bluefish.
Oh, bluefish, yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, he's just kind of sitting there with a house number on it for myself, actually. And then someone saw that, and I had it outside, and they said, wow, I really, can you make me one for my house? And I'm working on that now. And it's a mahi-mahi,
Yeah,
and that's going down to Florida.
cool. The other thing, I think this was the first thing that caught my eye. I don't know if you can switch down here, but this, you said this came from where?
So this is a remnant that I got. It's a piece of stone that originally came from Brazil.
Oh, Brazil, right.
And it's just one of those eye-catching moments I had, and the guy had it at a little yard sale.
Are you kidding me?
And, I don't know, as an artist, it's sort of as soon as I saw it, I was like, wow, I could,
Was it all cleaned off? Was it
well,
all,
this is all polished, this
was
side.
it all polished when you got it, when you
Yeah,
saw it?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
this is all polished, just like that. I haven't touched it. It's been sitting here for 2 years.
I mean, can you imagine what you can do with this?
Yeah, I thought about doing maybe a nice walnut base to it,
Mhm.
kind of thin legs,
Mhm.
and then getting the top edges, shaped and polished. Again, I just haven't had the time.
One of the things, though, you'll find up here is that people understand, the one thing Danby did was put marble back on the map,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Right.
everything, I mean, I saw the other day, we were driving through Dorset, and somebody's putting in a marble outdoor patio.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, I mean, but to me, the beauty of, not pure marble, but when you have, different kinds of, stones that are, intercepting here as it formed. I mean, when you think about how it all formed, right?
Yeah,
Through
yeah.
glaciers and all of that stuff.
There's a lot going on.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd like to
Beautiful.
meet a friend of mine, Ed Perkins. stone guy. Does exactly what you're talking about.
Around here?
He's around here, and
Wow.
you know, you're not going to see him. He has the stone place in Arlington. Sells a lot of stone near the Norman Rockwell Museum.
Oh, yeah.
Big stone. Yeah,
Have you
it just
been
looks like a quarry, a small quarry. But the guy is like so super talented.
So
and
does
he's
he
doing
dig
the-
stone out of there?
So what they're doing is he's a stone mason guy, but he's doing, like you said, the big marble pools and the
That's
big
crazy.
beautiful walkways, and and I love to walk through his yard sometimes because he's got all these remnants.
Pieces. Oh,
And it's like you see a piece of
absolutely.
this really cool marble and it's only one piece, and it's like, wow, I could, I can shape that and turn that into a tabletop, and,
Something.
and it's pretty
Yeah,
reasonable.
yeah.
Like this piece here,
Oh,
I think the original for a full sheet was like $5,000
Oh,
at
wow.
least.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked the guy, got any more? He was like, no way.
Yeah.
It was like
That
a
was it.
one-shot deal. So
Yeah, one shot wonder we call them. So I know this is like one, but this thing really attracted to me because it has the old, beautiful. I mean, that is just. I mean, what would you say is the time frame on this?
1700s.
Easily,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. This
And
is-
to have you could do something creative to make it look original, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wound up picking up that door. I bought the door from a friend of mine over in White Creek many years ago. Again,
Okay.
and I bought it because I
Become part
wanted
of
the
the
hardware.
furniture.
Everything was period, and I was going to try to use it.
Yeah.
I kind of wasn't crazy about the hole, but I'm sure something will come up.
Oh, absolutely.
But I've done a lot of furniture using the old wood and then using the original blacksmith hinges and the pintles on cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, and when you're done, it really looks like the piece came from that time period.
See, I could see this being a door to a hutch.
Yeah.
Or not a hutch, but going into a, what do you call those, where you keep all your food, pantry,
a pantry
Yeah.
cabinet, could
How
be a
great
small
would that be?
armoire,
right?
for sure.
But, well, I say that the sky's the limit here as far as the imagination, and we have been watching, this is Dave Hertzfeld from Hertzfeld Studios on 7A. And if you see the sign out there, come on in and give it some gander. And there's also his website, and all of his contact information will be at the end of the show. And you have been watching Artists in New England. And I am Christiane Ryan, where we bring to you the artist whose vision has definitely made an impact in the art world. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. God bless.
Heaven knows our lonely ways. Heaven knows our sorrows. Heaven knows things that we don't know, and the joy of eternal tomorrows. But through this glass we dimly see this world as it was made. Oh, and the good we know must surely flow from the heart of a kind creator. And day to day we ache with the pain that plagues creation. Night to night we lie awake and await its So hold on in this restless age. Do not fear your shadow. Your alternating tears and praise are prayers that surely will matter. Oh, and day to day we ache with the pain that plagues this creation.